Thank you for joining us here on the Joy News channel on Multi TV. Who documents a bribe and keeps it? That's the question that keeps emerging from those dismissive of a $100,000 Ford Expedition vehicle gifted to President Mahama in 2013. But on the flip side are those asking, if it was a gift, why wasn't it declared so publicly? But is this much ado about nothing? Or should the president just simply apologize or subject the issue to an inquiry by an independent body or other? All that is up for discussion tonight on Joint Caucus. I'm Jifa Bampo. Share your thoughts on the program and on the issues we are discussing. You can do so via phone 0506 800 000, and the number again is 0560 800 000. And you can also join us on Facebook, facebook.com/joynewsontv. Thank you for staying with us here on the Joy News channel on Multi TV, and this is Joint Caucus. Now, the subject of a 2013 Ford Expedition car gift has brought to the fore questions about whether the president committed any infraction by accepting this gift from a businessman actively securing government contracts. For some, the president didn't personally take this gift. It's documented that the gift is not in his name. It's also most likely not on his assets declaration form because it's not exactly his property. Well, those are some of the issues that are emerging from the controversy regarding this car gift from the Burkinabe contractor that has been dominating the media discussions. And that's what we'll be talking about tonight on Joint Caucus. You can also join us with your thoughts. Some of you have already started sending your messages, but I'll repeat the numbers again. It's 0560 800 000, and you can join us on facebook.com/joynewsonmulti-tv. Our guest tonight representing the NPP is private legal practitioner Samuel Abu Jinapo, and shortly we'll also have our representative from the NDC joining us. So good evening, Mr. Jinapo, and thank you for coming into our studios. The question being thrown at you repeatedly, those of you who are critical of President Mahama accepting this gift, is who takes a gift and documents it, or who takes a bribe and documents it?
Thank you very much, Jifa, and then a very good evening to your cherished listeners. I've had occasion to speak to this matter, and my views are very straightforward. I think that we need to build our society based on standards. I think we need to uphold the highest level of standards. I mean, everywhere in the world, whether it's in Britain or in Holland or United States, everywhere, they kept the standards. And that's how come they've built their society to the levels that they've got into. I think this issue of the vehicle being given to President Mahama raises two fundamental spectrum of matters for discussion. One is the morality, appropriateness, the values, the standards. And the other is the legal implications. Conflict of interest, corruption, abuse of office, and all of that. On the morality, in Ghana and in most jurisdictions, we provide our president with a fleet of vehicles. We provide our president with motorbikes, with helicopters. You saw the motorbike that the president drove around town. The president is given a fleet of vehicles. If President Mahama, for instance, wants a gold-plated armored vehicle, the people of this country will give him. And these vehicles are purchased with the taxpayers' money, the nurses' taxes, the teachers' taxes, all of us are taxes. There is a fundamental reason why we do that. And indeed, the president actually retires on his conditions of service. And the conditions of service are not to be varied to his disadvantage. Same for
General Article 75 office holders.
Office holders, Court of Appeal judges, Supreme Court judges, Assistant Commissioner of Police, all the way to IGP. There is a fundamental reason why we do that. Unlike you and I, we want our president to be quick to be happy and conveniently reject any gift in any form or shape with alacrity would put the president in that kind of position. So if in spite of all that we provide for our president takes a gift, not from a foreign government, not from a diplomatic mission, not from even a Ghanaian businessman, but from a Burkinabe foreigner, businessman, on the moral standards of it, it will not matter that it's MPP or it's NDC or it's President A or President B or President Mama, is palpably wrong.
I remember there was a criticism against former President Kufuor that a gift of, the refurbishment of a portion of his home was done by a farmer. That matter was taken up and was severely criticized. Many people on the NPP side, well, this is not anything. This is somebody who is just doing something for former President Kufuor. That issue was also quite dealt with.
No, the records as I have it was that President Kufuor turned it down. The gentleman made that offer. Mr. Albin Babin petitioned Shraj. Shraj investigated it and exonerated President Kufuor. These are two different things. They've talked about the Libyan situation. The Libyan situation was President Muammar Gaddafi and his government presenting Mercedes-Benz vehicles to all African head of states. It was presented at the seat of government. It was done in the public. It was open.
But there were journalists. Okay, so the issue is that as for a gift, people get gifts. The issue is that we shouldn't mistaken this to be bribery.
No, this goes beyond a gift, and I'll get there. And if you want to explain to you, this man met President Mahama in 2010. They are not classmates. They are not friends. They've never been friends before. They got to know each other because President Mahama had become vice president, and he is a businessman running a business enterprise for profit. They became friends in 2010. Sometime in 2012, he's awarded a contract which, in my view, is heartbreaking. That a wall is built for $650,000. There are issues of value for money.
It doesn't matter that the area of coverage. Just a quick one. It doesn't matter that the area of coverage. Yes, I know it sounds it's just a wall.
It's ridiculous.
But it doesn't matter that this area of coverage is as large as a football field. Was waterlogged, and there were other issues concerning this land.
There are two issues with that. First is the value for money audit. I think an investigation will unravel it. Don't forget the Auditor General, a constitutionally mandated institution of state, has tagged and flagged that contract to be a contract which raises suspicion.
There was no explanation. That's why it was flagged. It doesn't mean that there was any wrongdoing.
The Public Accounts Committee had to interrogate it. It was pursuant to that the celebrated distinguished journalists of your station, Manasseh Azuri, had to travel and conduct all of this investigation. So there are issues of value for money. There is also an issue of priority in this Ghana, where we can't pay teacher allowances, we can't pay nursing allowances, people cannot pay electricity, people cannot make ends meet. Everything we say there's no money. Northern Ghana, second cycle institutions cannot get feeding grants. We think in our country, Ghana, our priority is to go and build a wall in Burkina Faso for
it's embassy land.
Please, priority.
It's Ghana land.
So there are two issues, but more fundamentally, is the trajectory that I was on, which is the fact that this contract was awarded. This man gave President Mahama a Ford Expedition worth $100,000 US. Subsequent to that, he received several contracts. There is something in law called circumstantial evidence. For instance, in adultery, you can never find direct evidence. Hardly will you find direct evidence because adultery is not done in the open. You can't catch the people in the act. Same for corruption, same for bribery, same for conflict of interest, same for abuse of office. If I corrupted you before this program, there's no way I'll mention it on this platform. It is done under the cover of darkness. So when it comes to corruption, bribery, and conflict of interest, what is the test? You're
bringing all these issues, and the report just makes reference to one thing. That a gift was given. It doesn't say the president was bribed. It doesn't say the president was engaged in any conflict of interest. It doesn't say that there was any corruption. It just says that there was a gift. We have rules as regards gifts.
Exactly.
So let's stick to the word gift.
That is what a journalist is supposed to do. Journalists are not supposed to carry opinions or draw inferences. Journalists are supposed to put facts out there. And like Manasseh did, he just put the facts out there. And when he put the facts out there, a person who is the appointee of the president for corruption Daniel Batedam, when they gave him the same set of facts, because Manasseh was privy to the facts, when he presented those same set of facts to him, Mr. Batinodru agrees with me. Daniel Batedam agrees with me and many Ghanaians that will be palpably wrong.
Okay,
and
that kind of gift, did not know.
He said that the president will not accept such a gift.
For clarity, Mr. Batedam did not know that.
Good. Yes, I hear you. But those were the facts. These are the facts. These are the same facts that Manasseh presented to you in a hypothetical situation. But more fundamentally, on the circumstantial evidence, the test is, when you piece all the circumstances together, does it lead you to one and only irresistible conclusion? I say to you, when you piece all the facts together, that President Mahama, as vice president, second in command in 2010, was not a friend to this man. He didn't know him from Adam. They became friends in 2010. He was a public officer. This man is a private businessman whose sole motivation is profit. They became friends. He got a contract in these mysterious circumstances of building a wall for $650,000. He gives President Mahama a Ford expedition. Subsequent to that, he gets other contracts. When you piece all those circumstances, it leads you to one and only irresistible conclusion, that
what
this can only be a bribery.
All right. Let me come to the presidential staffer and parliamentary candidate for Ningo Pram Pram, Samuel Nate George. Mr. George, thank you for coming in. Mr. Abu-Jinapor has made all the points. I know you addressed that. But however, government accepts that this was a gift received from Mr. Kanazu's entity, and he's a private businessman in Burkina Faso. There's no doubt about that. Yes, you say there's documentation that covers it, as indicates the statement. However, if you say that once the president was not inclined to use this and he's given it to the... Don't you see that probably the way it was handled was probably untidy?
Well, let me say a very good evening to our viewers and to yourself and my brother Abu. I think that this issue is a non-issue. It is one which I think we shouldn't belabor, one we shouldn't waste a lot of time on, because there is actually no substance to it. It is our brothers on the other side in the NPP going on a fishing expedition which will yield no fruits. This whole hula...
You ever answered... Don't you think that the whole way
I don't think there's anything...
you don't think it was untidy?
No, because, and I'm coming to...
Couldn't it have been handled differently? Oh, you acknowledge publicly that a gift has been given, and you go through the normal processes as expected, that this is a gift to the government, and people of Ghana.
The office of the president,
then there's nothing about this.
No, the office of the president does not publicly announce the gifts that he receives. And let's state this for the records. I'm surprised Abu is a lawyer and he makes that claim. When the president is exempt, or the presidency is exempt from paying taxes. So even if a gift is received, they don't pay gift tax on it, because the presidency is exempt from all taxes. Now, and I will ask, did President Kufuor pay a gift tax in 2007 when the S500 was given? No, Abu, please, when you were speaking, I was quiet.
Please.
I beg you.
Thank you.
And so the point here that we must make clearly is the fact that, one, our laws do not prescribe the giving of gifts. In fact, it's a standard protocol that whenever any head of state or senior official of any state or any prominent person visits the country or visits the president, he is presented a gift. It is a regular protocol. And whenever the president travels, he also receives a gift. Those gifts become the property of the state. Now, one thing people must clear here is that there are two entities here. There's the president and the presidency. One is an individual, one is an institution.
Correct.
People tend to mix and befuddle both. Okay, this gift, and again, I agree with Abu-Jinapor when he says that corruption is done under the cover of darkness. That was a quote I picked from him. That's when I actually for the pen. And I do not see then how he would conclude any act of corruption in this case. Why? A gift of a car was given. It did not come to the office of to the president directly. We're told that this gentleman has access to the president. He's met the president prior to the gift coming. So he does have a direct line of access to the president. But when a gift is coming to the president, he doesn't bring it directly to the president. He sends it to Ghana's mission in Burkina Faso. Official channels. That is not darkness. That is exposure. The official channel does not pass it as a diplomatic bag. Because in diplomacy, governments are allowed through their missions to move things shrouded in some level of secrecy through a diplomatic bag in international law. This was not tagged as a diplomatic bag. It was passed and letters were written to the requisite port authorities to allow passage of the car, explaining the purpose of the car and where the car is coming from. Public institution. Exposure. That is, I don't see darkness here. The car is handed over to the Minister for the Upper West region. He picks it up and brings it to Accra and hands it over to the president with all the accompanying documents. Right. The president hands the vehicle over to state protocol as we speak today. And you see, Manasseh makes a claim in his report, and I must state on record that I have no problem with Manasseh running the story. I think he's done his job as a journalist. I would critique the job, but I have no problem with him running the story. And one of the critiques for it is, maybe if he had done further consultations, he would have realized that most operational vehicles in the office of the president are not registered at the DVLA. If you take the chassis numbers to the DVLA, because they are operational security vehicles, there are certain security protocols around it, you would not get any detail from the DVLA. So if he ran the chassis and engine number at the DVLA and did not find any registration at the DVLA, that should even in itself point to the fact that that car is not the property of an individual, but as a national security state protocol vehicle now. And that vehicle is carrying a national security number plate as we speak, and it's being used.
Mr. George,
now,
in all of this, I think the question that has emerged because of all these issues of code of conduct, SHRAJ, code of ethic for public officials and the like is that businessmen are not supposed to be giving gifts to our public officials.
No, you see, now let me
because I think that's the fun. It's okay. Another head of state and the like, but I don't know about I don't know about business. I don't know about active businessmen.
Now let me give you two examples where businesses, so that you realize that the gifts that are given by heads of state or to heads of state are not always from the head of state or from the state itself. But at times, heads of state act as conduits for business interest. Because heads of state actually look to expand local business. Take, for example, two companies, Zoomlion, Ghanaian company. They operate in Angola. They got the contract to do the Angolan Nations Cup after the CAN 2008. The Kufuor administration, as matter of state policy, supported a Ghanaian business to expand into the African sub-region. Fantastic idea.
Why not?
RLG, another Ghanaian company, operational in Nigeria today by the instrumentation of the NDC administration that had the government state policy push contacts in Nigeria to expand their business.
Yes, but people criticize if these entities give the presidency gifts.
Relax. When President Obama became president of the United States, 43rd president of the United States, first black president, his first visit was to Ghana. His first visit to Africa was to Ghana. When he came to Ghana, he met Professor Mills and Madame Nadu Mills. If you remember, there was a furore that erupted when they returned of a $48,000 wristwatch that was given to the First Lady of the FLUTUS, First Lady of the United States. At first, it was alleged that it had come from Mrs. Nadu Mills. Eventually, the U.S. National Archives, which receives all gifts, came out to clarify that it was only presented through her, but it came from a gold and diamond manufacturing company, which was buying its raw materials from Ghana, but was looking to establish presence in the U.S. market. So you see that is a gift that went through the presidency,
but created unnecessary controversy.
Relax. Then we come to the Libyan case, where President Kufuor received an S500 Mercedes-Benz, and I'm thankful today that he received that car.
Yeah, I guess you've made that point, but I beg your pardon. I just wish to clarify, because today, former Interior Minister Hackman Owusu-Agyemang was on Joy FM and indicated that this was a negotiated government-to-government decision to receive this donation of the bulletproof S500. So it's not like any gift that anyone just, this is a government-to-government decision.
Relax. At the time that happened, nobody, and I'm challenging Honorable Hackman to show me one press clipping that showed that it was a government-to-government collaboration. What happened? And again, you see, the MPP is raising all these issues today that after the gift of a car, Mr. Kanazoe's company got the Dudu Pepeso stretch of road, an EU contract, which government of Ghana in its own did not even have control over the award processes. Yet, government is supposed to have been compromised because of a gift of a 2010 Ford Expedition. Now, in the case of the Libyan car, when the S500 was given to government, you remember City Hotel?
Yes.
Do you know the shareholders of City Hotel now
No.
called Golden Tulip?
No.
As Libyan investors.
There's nothing wrong with that.
That deal was struck. Oh, please relax. Let's have viewers here for the information of our public. The Libyan investors got that deal after the S500 had been presented to our president by the Libyan government.
You also have to provide proof that there was any link between the two.
I am only
You are also inferring.
I am only trying to use the MPP logic. You get the point? Because you see, Manasseh in his story never anywhere established a case of bribery in his story.
No.
And that is where, again, I will take a little exception from Manasseh, or with Manasseh. I think that as a journalist, he's done a fantastic piece.
The issue is...
I'm coming, Jafar. He's done a fantastic piece. If another group, the NPP, has taken his piece and is putting a spin, which is not what he intended, I think it's only right that he puts out a statement and says, my story, this is the import of my story. The spin that is being put is the spin by another group. Because right now, when you listen to the NPP, the suggestion is that this is what Manasseh said.
No. Or they are latching onto it.
They're latching onto it.
All right.
Again,
you wrap up
again, in wrapping up,
please.
look, this whole hula baloo is an act of equalization.
How so?
We're going into the 2016 elections, and the message of the candidates and the character of the candidates are going to be subjects of debate. It has been established that the leader of the NPP has questions to answer when it comes to corruption, because his suspended chairman, the chairman of the NPP, Mr. Polafoko, has granted an interview to Africa Watch magazine and stated that the root cause of his problems in the NPP is his decision to fight corruption within the party by people closely linked to the flag bearer. And he cites the flag bearer as being aware of the acts of corruption and that he's been ousted for that. The NPP is seeing that we're getting into that season. They need to quickly throw some dirt on President Mahama. And that is why they're trying to have an equalization here. Okay. That will not wash.
Okay, I think you can stop on that point. But Mr. Jinapo, before you start responding, there's the issue of what's in the code. And one of the things that is said, I understand, is that once it goes beyond the threshold of 200 cedis, yes, whatever property it is reverts to the state. The president has done that with all the documentation therein. Maybe it was not as tidy as one would have expected it to do, but really there's no evidence that he actually called Mr. Kanazoe himself and thanked him. Because, well, I can tell my friend to call you and say, oh, please tell him thank you. Maybe somebody else. We have no evidence of that. There's also no evidence of the fact that the contract that he's withdrawn from now, which is an EU contract, is because of this gift. This is a 3-year-old matter. And the reality is that with all this documentation around, really, isn't it just far-fetched to make it look like a bribe?
That's a very brilliant question, and it helps me to make my point. You recall that when I started, I disintegrated the issues into two parts.
The morality,
the values, and then the criminal part, the corruption, the abuse of office, and the rest. These are very legitimate questions that you are asking. And the matters of whether or not the president gave it to the state, the documentation, whether it was in his name, in the name of the state.
It's not in his name, obviously. Because at the time, it's certainly not in his asset declaration.
We require a probe in any jurisdiction, anywhere. In a matter like this, there will be a probe.
So you want to see a probe?
We need to have a probe.
Support the PPP's call today?
Either through impeachment proceedings in Parliament, or through a bipartisan inquiry, or through a judicial inquiry.
Or an independent body.
I speak to this with a lot of passion.
Or an independent body.
Whatever. But we need I speak to this with a lot of passion.
What would the probe be looking for? Because this is a gift.
We'll be looking at the legal propriety or otherwise of the president's conduct in relation to this vehicle.
In relation to accepting the gift.
This vehicle, the circumstance, everything related to the legal propriety, whether there was corruption, whether there was abuse of office. And you know, if I speak to this with a lot of passion, one day, Mr. Sam George is president of Ghana, I want the highest standards in the world to be applied to Mr. Sam George. if it's defined, I want the highest standards. I mean the highest. The standards that are applied to the presidents of America, of Britain, of anywhere in the world, the highest of the standards should be applied to him. More so when it's the president. We're not talking about a vice president or a minister or a deputy. We're not talking about a presidential staffer. Mr. Sam George may get away with it. But a president of our republic, and this is one too many. Now let me make another point. The issues of the conduct, the ethics, and the president himself, in his own code of conduct, 1.44, subtitle, gift, he says, and I quote, to avoid the creation or appearance of an obligation, the creation or appearance, not just create, but even if it appears, to avoid it. He says, gifts in cash or kind are not to be solicited or accepted from a commercial enterprise or any other organization, end quote. Whether President Muhammad took the gift, gave it to an orphanage.
But he didn't solicit.
You wait. Whether he took the gift, gave it to an orphanage, whether he took the gift, gave it to the state, gave it to a traditional authority, gave it to Joy FM, one. He says that to avoid the creation or appearance of an obligation. He says don't solicit. Don't also accept a gift in cash or kind from a commercial enterprise. This gift was in kind. This gift was from a commercial enterprise. This gift was accepted by President Mahama. Whether he donated it to an orphanage or to the presidency or to Joy FM, that is neither here nor there. He has breached his own code.
This code came into effect in 2014.
So until are you saying until this code came into?
So it cannot be retrospective.
Correct. So
nonetheless, I mean, I'm just making the point. But the Shraj code was there from 2006.
And it's in similar terms. But be that as it may, are you saying that until this code was put on paper, the president did not believe in these things? We want a president who believes in stuff like this.
Okay, so this code came into force in 2013.
Whatever it is,
2013.
The spirit of the code is being breached. And one wants to believe that when the president was campaigning in 2012, he meant that this is what he would do. That's why when he was voting into power, he scribbled these things and made it a code. Now you see,
I don't mean to interrupt, but the reality is that there might be things that seem immoral, but they may not be illegal. When MPP officials got some of these lands in the airport area, we are told that, well, it's an option that was available.
That's why Nana Akufo-Addo didn't take it. And that's why Nana Akufo-Addo didn't go anywhere close to it.
It was not.
Even though he was out of office.
Immoral.
That's the difference between Nana Akufo-Addo and President Mahama.
It's not illegal, but it may be immoral.
Right. You are right.
So I'm just
a lawyer like me more than anybody should accept that morality and legality are two different things.
Exactly.
That is correct. But I'm saying to you that
your reference to this code coming into effect in 2013. Obviously, everything is now being streamlined.
I'm saying to you that on the morality, on the standards, the president has fallen flat, as opposed to President Mahama. When Akufo-Addo was not even Minister of Foreign Affairs, and he was offered land, he said, no, thank you. Take your land. I don't want it. Now, on the question of the legality, we need a probe to establish it. Until we have a probe, we cannot establish whether even all these things that are being said about the vehicle was donated to the state and all of that, whether it's an afterthought, or whether these documents have been cooked, or what have you. That is why we require
what the Constitution says. Please correct me if I'm wrong, because the two of you are a lawyer, you are studying law as well. The Constitution talks about accepting bribe. This is not, or hasn't been established to be a bribe. That's the condition under which the president can be impeached.
Yes, one of the most fundamental grounds on which any president in the world, and for that matter Ghana, can be impeached is when you bring your office into disrepute. You can be impeached.
So and if
it is established that the president has abused his office, it can be grounds for impeachment. It will mean that he has brought his office under disrepute. So to bring your office into disrepute is grounds for impeachment. But on a more fundamental point, you see, so the point we are making, is a very, very simple one. Mr. President, I'm told a certain NPCs he receives goats and sheep. Whether it is goat, whether it is sheep, whether it is a car, whatever, stop receiving gifts. There's a reason for it.
But
and I'll tell you,
former President Mills donated some of these gifts he received to orphanages and all that.
Oh, as for that, let me tell you.
What's wrong with that?
Let me tell you. I never.
To the extent that it's not a bribe. What's wrong with that?
I've never been a fan of President Mills as a politician. I've never supported him. I've never been in his party. But on that one alone, may he so rest in peace. President Mills will never receive any gift like this. President Mills, it won't work. No, let me conclude it. And the reason why the president doesn't have to receive gifts Jifa, have you read this book before? 48 Laws of Power. You haven't? I'll give you a copy. It's a very good book. The book, Law 40. And Sam, take it up because you're a public officer. He says, despise the free lunch. Despise the free lunch. And I quote, he says, quote, what is offered for free is dangerous. It usually involves either a trick or a hidden obligation, end quote. President of the Republic, foreign commercial entities whose entire motivation is to make profit, donate a fourth expedition to you, whether you paid gift tax, you haven't paid gift, and not gift tax, Sam. If the president receives this in his personal name, he has to pay gift tax before
he received this in his personal name.
It was given to him.
Did he receive it in his personal name? The gift was to President Mahama.
The man in Karazori said it. And you see, give us one more fundamental point. Our president, let me just wrap up in a second. Let me wrap up in a second. Sam, the reason why public officers like you, and particularly the president, who's the chief public officer, the reason why we provide you all these perks, privileges, the reason why all of us work day and night, and yet they don't give us vehicles, they don't give us bungalows, they don't give us allowances, they don't give us all this fleet of luxuries, perks, and privileges, is because we want to put you in a position where you can resist these kinds of gifts and not have obligations towards private individuals or commercial entities, and conduct your business so that you as a presidential staffer, if there's a decision that you have to make, there's a file on your desk, and you are making that decision, there is nothing lingering at the back of your mind that somebody gave you a fourth expedition, and therefore you may be tilted to take the decision in a person's favor.
On
so
that
you
point,
can take your, so you should stop
Mr.
taking gifts.
Come in, Mr. George. Then we'll receive some of the messages. Yes.
Okay. I think that Abu Jinapor has basically just gone round in circles and failed to establish any real...
He raised one issue about a probe. What do you say to that?
I think that at first I suggested...
there have been three suggestions.
Forget those things. Jifa, let's dismiss those things as trivial. Because at first I said the NPP was engaged in fishing. Now I think they're engaged in illegal pair trolling. Talking about an impeachment...
But there's nothing to hide, really. You can go through the probe and there'll be nothing.
What are you probing? What are you probing in the first place? Look, I'm laying out... I'm using your platform as a big platform. And I'm using your platform to speak to the NPP, the minority in parliament led by Honorable Oseiche Mensah Bonsu. If you are men of your words as honorable members of parliament and minority, and you think you have a case against President Mahama, I'm challenging them in 7 days to start impeachment processes.
Let me respond to the challenge.
If they really know, and that this is not about a media blitz to distract from the good work the president is doing, the transformational agenda, I'm challenging the NPP in parliament. The minority in parliament, if you really are men of truth and integrity, and you really want to say you want to start an impeachment process in 7 days, initiate impeachment processes. If you fail to do that, Ghanaians will realize that this is just a plain PR exercise. Now let me zero in on one of the issues he's raised. He's tried to draw a distinction between Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and President Mahama. Look, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo said he did not take any of the lands that were shared, the airport lands that were shared. Yet he was quiet about it. When he heard it was going on, he never spoke up against it. He kept quiet and allowed his colleague ministers take it. He should find out.
He wasn't a minister then. He wasn't a minister.
All right.
He should find out.
He was flag bearer.
Flag bearer, as former minister. As former minister. He allowed his ministers, his party members who were ministers, to take the land, and he didn't speak against it. He should go and find out who owns, and I'm asking a general question, who owns the Foreign Affairs Guest House which was sold near GIJ? Again, who was in charge, or who was the Attorney General? Who was the Attorney General when our drill ship was sold? Our drill ship was sold. The proceeds, we up till today, the way the proceeds were dispersed.
Okay, that's a matter of legal challenge.
What legal challenge?
Katie Hammond has filed in court about that.
He has filed in court, but we all saw the sole commissioner. No, there is a report from the sole commissioner.
Is Mr.
We have seen the Great Cape sequence. Incidents where Nana Addo Akufo-Addo is writing out letters.
Now you are going into Mr. Akufo-Addo's too much. Why don't you address
and let me give you the final example. Let me give you the final reason why I think that if there's anybody who has the tag of corruption, apart from the Polafoko expose, which says that Nana Addo is superintending over corruption in the NPP, and that's why he's been ousted. When you have a flag bearer, you tell me your flag bearer is not going to take a Ford expedition, okay? But your flag bearer will take cash and 100 motorbikes from a drug baron, who is serving time.
Have any,
oh, please,
I don't
there
have
is
any
proof.
of
There
that.
is proof. We've put out pictures.
Please, we don't have any proof of
I
that.
am saying,
George.
This
this
can
is, so
you may be party to a defamation suit.
It's not defamation suit.
I'm telling you.
Please.
We have
I
seen
don't have
the
any
pictures.
proof of
We have
that. I
seen
don't
the
know
pictures
anything
have been
about that.
published.
So please, let's
Fine.
not
No.
refer
Fine,
to that.
so you don't know.
So
but I am
not,
saying
so no, I
but-
won't allow you to continue
Why?
on that particular tangent.
But we all know that Lebaron
I don't
has
know.
contributed.
Not all of us know.
Well, it is public
Not-
knowledge.
not
Maybe you
all
don't
of
know.
us know.
But Nana
So
Akufo-Addo
just
has
stick
received
to
money
the
from
issue
a
is
convicted
we don't
drug
know about
baron
that,
for his
Mr.
2018
George.
campaign. I'm telling you, 100
So
motorbikes.
please-
The pictures are put out
So
there.
please, let's stick to the
You get me?
specific
We're
issue.
sticking to the specifics.
Yes.
So in
about
this case,
whether there
shame,
should
shame,
be a
shame.
probe or not, whether this
Jifa,
is a gift or
Jifa,
not. Let's stick
I'm
to
saying
the
that
He's
I'm
lost
saying
the
that
debate.
if we need to probe,
When you lose the debate,
if we need to probe, if we need to probe.
So that's why I said, so that you
If-
have
no,
challenged
no,
the minority.
Jifa, relax.
Wait, you've challenged the minority.
Yes.
You say
And
that.
I'm saying,
Can I-
if you
and what
don't
I'm
see
saying-
anything after
you were
7
speaking,
days,
I was quiet. Just
you said
relax.
after 7 days, if you don't hear anything, then they are not men of their word.
And
However, an independent body could decide to look into this.
And Jifa, I'm saying that there is nothing substantial. You will look into this if His Excellency the President has received a vehicle. His Excellency the President has not received a vehicle. The presidency has received a vehicle. That's why I started by making the distinction between the president and the presidency. If you take the president's asset declaration form, if you take his asset declaration form, you will not find a Ford Expedition on it. You know why? Because he doesn't own one. He hasn't received one. But if you take an inventory of the state fleet, you will see that Ford Expedition with that chassis number there. So how then will the president declare what doesn't belong to him? And so you see, Jifa, the point here is, if there is any before you can start a probe, you must first and foremost, he's a lawyer,
Establish
a prima facie case. There is no prima facie case here, because the case here, or the subject of contention here, is a Ford Expedition car, which we are giving a very bloated price of. Forget that. That's even trivial.
Joy FM bloated the price.
Oh yes,
they went and checked.
All right.
But the point I'm making here is that in the case of this vehicle with specific engine and chassis number, there is no such vehicle in the possession of His Excellency.
Okay,
unless and until somebody can prove that that vehicle with that engine number and chassis number is in the custody of the president, then you can have a prima facie case to start or initiate a probe.
Okay.
In the lack of that, with a lack of such evidence, you can't start a probe.
Okay, thank you.
Then the next thing I'll say is that because Jifa is wearing a wig, then Jifa too has killed an Indian woman and taken her wig.
matter of.
Yes,
It's becoming
Mr. Jinapo,
ridiculous.
so you,
Anyway,
you,
Jifa,
the
no,
point
quickly,
you wanted
let me
to
just
make,
make a
because
few
we have
points.
just 3 minutes.
Yeah,
and
let me
you-
So I
just
hope
make
I'll
a
get
few
a
points.
chance to rebut what you
No,
say.
Quickly.
let me make a few points. One, this whole business of presidencies in the president's name is a fleet of...
It's not in the president's name.
The presidency and all of them, they are the master of their records. So, until we conduct a probe, we cannot independently verify and ascertain the true facts. This is a president and the president that has been caught pants down. And they have
Pants
now
down where?
let me make my point. They have now come out to say the figure is not in his name, it's in a fleet of figure. How are we able to verify that until we conduct a probe? Two, the questions about Akufo-Addo and corruption and Paul Afoko and the NPP, I have a very simple response to it. We, all of us, citizens of this country, yourself, me, Sam George, everybody, we require of our government to investigate and to make findings of corruption against all individuals and entities, prosecute them and punish them. This government has been in office for 8 years. They have all the investigative and prosecutorial powers. Not a single MPP government official, not from the president to the messenger, has been convicted for corruption or any wrongdoing. Akufo-Addo keeps walking on the streets of this country. He's currently in the central region. He has not even been invited by any investigative body to answer questions of corruption or impropriety, let alone investigations, further let alone a conviction. So, if there is anybody who should be held accountable, it should be this government that has stayed in power for 8 years, which claims that people were corrupt, which claims Akufo-Addo is corrupt, and which has not investigated him, and which has not prosecuted him, and which has not punished him. It is this government. So they cannot be held to make claims of corruption. That makes the final point, then we proceed. Now, on Akufo-Addo again. You see, you know Akufo-Addo's, the Attorney General and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, this government has conducted 6 forensic audits. Not a shred of evidence has been found against him. And I say this to the people of this country. From 1977, when Akufo-Addo at the age of 33 was the General Secretary for the People's Movement for Freedom and Justice, for 40 years, Akufo-Addo has demonstrated unassailable,
you're making this now about your flag,
because he's spoken about him. Because it's important that we situate it.
Okay, please wrap it up because
integrity.
I'll take a final point because
he's
unfortunately
Mr.
we've run out of time.
Incorruptible. He's Mr. Clean, Mr. Sam George. What has happened under President Mahama, where a president of the republic receives a gift from a foreign businessman, take it from me, will never, and I mean never happen under Akufo-Addo. On impeachment, he throws a challenge. No, on impeachment, he throws a challenge. You see?
Please, we have time. Please, I'm running out of time and I need to let Mr. George.
He throws a challenge. The fact that MPP has not initiated impeachment proceedings doesn't mean that we will not. Now, if you look at the composition of our parliament and you see their disposition where they have seen wrong and they will not face it, it is never likely that impeachment proceedings will succeed in our parliament. But I say to my people, the minority, that let's begin these impeachment proceedings for the records. Let's set the records and let the standards be set that if a president receives gifts in these kinds of circumstances, even if the impeachment proceedings will not succeed, we will start it and we will make sure that it goes into the annals of the Ghanaian political history and governance history. That there was a day in the Republic of Ghana where a president received a gift from a foreign entity, a businessman, and the minority found it so palpable that they initiated impeachment proceedings.
Okay, thank you very much. Please, you have 2 minutes, so please.
You give him 3, I give him 2.
No, I beg your pardon. We are running out of time.
The point I must make here is very simple. It is one that says that this is a case of double standards on the part of the NPP. He's saying that we need to establish, we need a probe to establish the fact that the car is not in the custody of the president.
Or it's not in his name.
In his name. If the car is in the president's name, a search with those chassis, the chassis number at DVLA, we yield a result.
Oh, please.
Or if we yield the name or result of another citizen.
Thank you.
If it was registered in another citizen's name, it will still yield a certain result.
Please don't interrupt.
But then the point here is that the vehicle is in the possession of state security, a state protocol. And that is why when Manasseh, and that's why I said I don't have a problem with his work. When Manasseh did his work, he was able to establish the fact that there are no records at the DVLA. Now, in wrapping up on this whole Nana-Addo is Mr. Incorruptible and all of that, I would just use an analogy for you. A kid was asked by his teacher in school that if you find a bag, of $1 million and you find another bag of wisdom, which will you pick? The child said, I will pick the bag of $1 million. The teacher said to the child, you see, you're not smart. You should have picked the bag of wisdom. You know what the child said to you know what the child said to the teacher? He said, you don't pick or fight for what you have already. They are fighting to give Nana-Addo Mr. Incorruptible tag. It is because they know he's corrupt. We are fighting to establish the fact that John Mahama is a transformational leader because that is what he is.
He's been caught.
You keep fighting to get the Incorruptible because you know your man is corrupt.
He's been caught.
We are not fighting that.
Okay, so for you, the probe is totally unnecessary. If the impeachment proceedings begin,
it's a waste of our time.
This one they've been exposed.
I said this is a big platform. I am telling you,
you've been
in 7 days.
When the president was quizzed on BBC whether he had taken a bribe before, he said president or human being. This one was it human being? Was it human being or I say we should investigate it.
Right.
We should investigate. Let's probe it.
Investigate what?
Let's conduct a probe.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and that's how we have to end the program this evening. Join Caucus here on the Joy News Channel Multi TV. Thank you, Samuel Abu Jinapoli, private legal practitioner. Thank you, aspirants for Ningo Pram parliamentary candidate for Ningo Pram NDC and presidential staffer Sam George. My name is Jifa Bampo. Join us again next week. On Wednesday there is Majority Caucus. On Thursday there is Minority Caucus. Have a good weekend.